The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Our pre-show conversation got a little dark there, but I think that's why the importance of putting good into the world and what we're doing here in these conversations. Welcome to the show, everyone, where we explore how empathy, connection, and purpose transform business from the inside out. I'm Stephen Sakach, along with the co-host, Mike Liwski, and today's conversation is about redefining capitalism through humor, heart, and sustainability. And here's a couple stats for you. A report by Deloitte found that purpose-driven companies grow 3 times faster than their competitors. And another study by Cone Communications revealed that 63% of consumers prefer to buy from companies that reflect their value. And our guest is someone who's proven that doing good and doing business can be one and the same. Mike, introduce our guest today.
Absolutely, Stephen. Super excited to. And with that intro, I can't wait to jump into our conversation. So we're excited to welcome Colin McIntosh. He's the founder and CEO of not just one company, but 2 impactful brands, Sheets and Giggles and sheetsresume.com. Now, Sheets and Giggles is a fast-growing Denver-based bedding company known for its sustainable eucalyptus sheets, zero plastic packaging, and commitment to giving back, having actually donated over $250,000 to charity. Colin grew Sheets and Giggles from a $0 to $1 million company in monthly revenues within just 2 years. Incredibly remarkable. But that's not all. When it comes to Colin, he also founded sheetsresume.com, and that's an AI-powered resume builder that has helped millions of people to create resumes, which we know are critical, right, in these days to help the workforce. And recently, he's even made it free for all laid off or threatened government workers to help them transition to the private sector. So, Colin, well done. Welcome to the show. We are super excited to have you.
Thanks a lot, and I appreciate the very warm intro. It's been really a gift to have the spare time for the resume builder, and I've helped so many people out with just a few hours here on nights and weekends. So it's been really a gift.
Man,
yeah, awesome. Colin. So we've got these 2 different ideas: Sheets and Giggles, Sheets Resumes. I think they're very different. You do have that same sort of witty branding, I think, a little bit in both of those.
I'm the Sheets guy. I'm the My Pillow guy. If he wasn't clinically insane, well, that's maybe overly generous. If he wasn't evil, maybe is a better way to put it. So I'm the Sheets guy. And so people on the internet call me the Sheets guy, and so I just stick with it. For the rest of my podcast is called Sheet Talk. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna be the thing for the rest of my life.
Amazing. I love it.
Can you share how the ideas for these 2 companies came about and maybe what motivated you to start them?
Well, Sheets and Giggles was, 7.5 years ago, almost 8 now, actually, because I was watching. This is such a I have a really dumb founder story. Every other founder in the world has a super cool personal problem, something they were trying to solve. For me, I was watching War Dogs with Miles Teller and Jonah Hill, and Miles Teller's character selling sheets out of the back of a pickup truck. He has to burn all the inventory because he can't sell them to anybody. And I got so mad with this fictional character that I paused the movie, which my ex-girlfriend was really upset about. And I wrote a business plan for a bedding company that night. And whenever I write a business plan, I always think, what's a funny name for that? And then I buy a URL. And Sheets and Giggles just hit me like a punch in the face. Fun fact, I just bought for a plumbing company, johnsjohns.com. I bought that last week. That's a great URL, johnsjohns.com, right? Like, how good is that? Anyway,
I like it.
So I own like 100 domains, obviously, and I don't start most of the companies, although I will start draftcraft.com one day. And, Sheets and Giggles, I thought about it for like 3 or 4 months. And then I got laid off from my last job at 1 p.m. on a Monday in September 2017. And didn't get last week's pay, I had to pay for my laptop, lost my healthcare. And that was like the 3rd time that I had been unceremoniously fired or let go in my career. And I was 27. I had this really crazy, zany idea about this bedding company called Sheets and Giggles. I got super drunk with my coworkers after we all got laid off, which is what you do after you get laid off. And I'm telling them I'm going to start this betting company, Sheets and Giggles, like that. And they're like, okay, dude. They probably thought I was wasted, which to be fair, I was. And 3 weeks after we got laid off, I incorporated the company. And 6 months later, we did a $300,000 crowdfunding campaign. And we shipped our first box October 2018. And as you alluded to, 2 years later, in November 2020, we had our first $1 million month. So it was pretty meteoric there at the beginning. And it's been a wild ride over the last better part of a decade. And so
I'm glad that
dumbfounder story.
I'm glad the War Dogs. I'm glad the War Dogs movie didn't inspire you to sell arms. So you found a different business within the.
It was that or bed sheets, with the inspiration from the movie.
That or bed sheets.
And for me, I've got on a personal level, the sustainability of the product is very important to me. I'm not going to start a company if I can't feel good about what it's actually doing. And then I actually have a really bad herniated C6-7 and not a very good C4-5 either. And so last night was terrible night. And so I have a really hard time staying asleep. And I know what that's like. And so every product we design is designed for people like me, people who are hot sleepers, who have chronic pain, maybe have an ailment. And we have a ton of people who use our sheets, our lyocell sheets. They're amazing for hot sleepers, people with eczema, hyperhidrosis, contact dermatitis, women going through menopause. We have users who have MS or ALS who suffer from overheating and like the lightweight of the fabric. So it's been very important to me to like make products for people like myself, and our mattress and our pillow are amazing for chronic neck pain.
Yeah, I love that. I think he's probably just sold a bunch right then, at least on the show.
Well, a huge number of people have I heard that disc replacement surgery is now like the number 2 most common surgery in the US, which maybe that combined with fusion, but it's wild.
And then on the resume side, how'd you jump into the resume side?
Well, so early in my career, so my first job was at Bridgewater Associates, the world's largest hedge fund in Connecticut, Ray Dalio's fund. And I got unceremoniously fired from that job in about 5 months. I did not fit in with the culture there. Radical transparency and honesty is wonderful. If you, maybe have a little sugar, which is antithetical to their no sugar principles. And so I got let go in 5 months. I ended up becoming a recruiter at the company that hired me there. Ironically, I was in Connecticut. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was 2013. I was 22, 23 years old. And my buddy Nate said, "Hey man, like we still like you. Come be a recruiter." And I loved recruiting. I had no idea what it was like, and I was like they called me the recruiting vampire because I was always up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, sending my LinkedIn emails and sending updates to the team. And I hired a bunch of people my first year, and I got so good at it, and I loved it so much. And I fell in so much love with some of the startups that I was recruiting for. And I recruited for hedge funds. I recruited for the largest banks in the world that you definitely know. And I recruited for brand name startups that are, super well backed startups. And I just got so obsessed with the startup trajectory. I ended up hiring myself as a business development associate in one of my open roles at one of my clients, which is a great way to leave a company. Everybody gets
really
paid.
Hands-on recruiting there. That's
I get paid. They get paid. The employer I'm leaving gets paid. It was a great way to leave a company. And I went out to Seattle, and I worked out there for about 2 years. And then my friend, so anyways, that's my background with the resume stuff. I won't go into the whole, but then about 2018, I had kept doing resume reviews for friends and family, one-offs, maybe 100 of them over the years. And I just realized, God, no one knows how to write a good resume. And I hate all the advice on the internet, the recruiting gurus, the sharks, the predators. There are so many people that take advantage of people in this space because these are people who are like at the end of the rope, right? Very similar to the crowdfunding environment, which is also filled with predators. And so I sat down on my computer one Saturday morning in February 2018, and I wrote this long resume guide on Reddit. And I put it out there for free, and it became the most popular resume template on the internet. It's been downloaded millions of times all across the globe. It's the number 3 result on Google for resume template. And I just, for the last 7 years in my spare time, with little I have, I've answered probably like tens of thousands of questions, whether they were comments or DMs, PMs, asking me about, resumes and job hunting. And I just kept updating the thread with like new advice, updates, new tools. Like I kept answering comments. I made my own subreddit. All these different things. And then I started finally 2023. I think I started doing, I called Nate, my old recruiting buddy who hired me in my first 2 jobs. And I said, hey man, do you have any time to do resume reviews? And he said, very little. I have 2 kids. But he found the time, and then I found the time, and we were doing like 1 or 2 a week, just a couple hours because we're very busy people. And then about a year ago, he called me. He said, hey, what do you think about putting an AI wrapper on all this advice that we're doing? And I was like, that would be brilliant. I think that's a great idea. And so we put it out there in like August of last year, and it's been helping tons and tons of people. We're so proud of it.
Yeah, well,
That's awesome.
unfortunately, there's a lot of government, employees looking for jobs right now. So
I can't tell you the sad stories I've heard. I mean, people are losing their entire livelihoods, their dreams, their passions, their purpose, their income, their healthcare, their family's healthcare, and getting ridiculed by the most powerful people in the world on the way out. I mean, I've been fired 3 times in my life. I've never had I've never had the president and his, top dogs ridicule me during the worst day of my life. And so, I really feel for these people. 275,000 human beings have lost their livelihoods and their purpose in life in the last 100 days. And so we've gotten a ton of influx from that, and I've given it away for free to all those people. So that's been really awesome.
Yeah, Colin, we certainly applaud you. Sorry that you suffered too from, the back pain, but hey, because of that, you have really helped, thousands and thousands of people. So I wanted to ask, about some of the challenges in building the 2 organizations, because they both seem very different. Obviously, right?
Super.
Yet you still have this awesome thread of helping people in both of those businesses. But can you maybe share with our audience, what are some of the challenges that you faced building the 2 brands, given that they are, so different and you were at different scales?
It's actually been super easy and similar for both the brands, because I think a founder's brand needs to be the founder. So I don't think that you can outsource your brand voice to anyone else but you. And so all the brands that I build, are me, the best parts of me. So me without my neuroticism. And so, like Sheets and Giggles, there's like the optimistic, upbeat, funny, Seinfeld, the brands is what I call it, a brand about nothing. We can talk about, SpongeBob memes one day and the next day donate $40,000 to COVID relief. And I love that about Sheets and Giggles. It's a totally blank canvas for me to play with. And then with Sheets Resume, I've just kind of followed my gut there, and I've said like it's a little more sagey. Sheets and Giggles is much more of a jester outlaw archetype. And I think the resume business is a lot more sagey because people they are hungry for advice and good advice in that space. Whereas with S&G, it's I got to educate them a little bit about the difference between our sheets and somebody else's sheets. But at the end of the day, you put them on your bed, you go to bed at night. So it's not rocket science. And so that's been really fun it's been fun to validate that thesis of with Sheets and Giggles of being in the right place at the right time in front of the right people with the right products. And then for the resume biz, it's been a lot more educational, but it's still whimsical and zany. And I use, parentheticals and fourth wall breaks. And, I just love copy. To me is so important. I think copy is everything. It's actually one of the things I'm least excited about with AI is kind of the copy floor being raised, but it also feels like the ceiling's been lowered on really good copy.
It's really poor at humor. So
yeah, it's really bad at humor. Humor's really hard.
Yeah, so you're going to be fine there. I think it's
getting a little better. It's getting better.
It is getting a little better.
I think it's going to get better at everything.
Something I saw, it will get better. Yesterday I was like, oh, that's actually pretty funny. Yeah. I've seen it a couple times, but yeah, coming out of the gates there, it was like, yeah, that's not funny at all. So are there thinking about, conscious capitalist sort of approach to business, are there any sort of processes, systems, methodologies you implemented at either of these businesses that you'd consider sort of a empathetic, kind, or compassionate sort of system?
Tons. I mean, it started with Sheets and Giggles, 7 years ago when I had something to give, I immediately gave. I really we initially we planted a tree for every order that we received. That resulted in tens of thousands of trees being planted all across the U.S. in areas that need reforestation. We also would give you, I think, 10% off your order if you donated your old sheets. If they were in good condition, you had to send photo proof to a homeless shelter. Sheets are the number 2 most requested thing at homeless shelters behind socks. And I've actually met the founder of Bombas, and he's been a big inspiration for me. And a bunch of different things that we did in the beginning with S&G, and with our people, unlimited time off, unlimited sick days. You don't have to ask for time off. You just take it. You post in Slack when you're going to be off, and you go. You're an adult. Take care of your work. Get somebody to cover it for you. And that's been really awesome. And moving to fully remote in the wake of COVID as well. And then with the resume biz, I mean, it's very obvious to me what we do. For anyone who can't afford it, we give it to them for free. They just have to email us, and we give it away. And I probably give it away to a dozen people a day. And that's been incredibly fulfilling to be able to do that for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love all that. I mean, a lot of those, if you're thinking about doing good, if you can put it into a system or something like that, you're just going to be able to do more and more of it and keep it going versus, the one-off kind of random act of kindness.
Yeah, it's got to be built into the business DNA.
Yeah.
I really like the tree planting for the orders. That was a really awesome thing we did in the beginning. It was really motivating for my team as well, that like every order that we got was another new tree planted.
Yeah. Well, and I love what you said too about the brand building that you did, that it had, the founder needs to be the brand. And I think that is so true. And it's genuine, right? It's not something made up that you can't just really stand behind. So I think, yeah.
I see people outsource their brand voice all the time to other people on their team or agencies. And I think it's a huge mistake. I think that the brand has to be a direct channel of who you are. And so I really enjoyed that with everything I built so far.
How do you balance kind of maintaining successful business with staying true to your values? Do they ever get like pushed in some way? I mean, you're obviously like giving things away and stuff like that. At some point, maybe it crosses your mind a little bit, like, should I do this? I mean, how do you balance?
Well, I guess, like you compromise here and there on some of your values. It's really hard in business to do everything perfect all the time, and you never want perfect to be the enemy of good. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I really try to make sure we're a net positive outcome on the world, whether it's a net carbon sink or it's just a net positive in society. Like you said, we donated $250,000 to society. But yeah, I mean, push comes to shove fairly often. One thing I really stuck to my guns on is the plastic-free packaging for nearly every single product. It becomes impossible for certain products, like a mattress. But on that end, what we're doing is we're actually evaluating a plant-based plastic to vacuum seal and wrap the mattress in. So, you don't let it stop you from shipping your product and moving the business forward, but you can, take the steps so that way in 2 years or, some reasonable amount of time, you've pushed the envelope forward and the front line forward on, your values and what sustainability means to you and your products.
Yeah, you might not even know the solution yet, but you're continually asking the question to that problem that eventually you find it, right?
Yeah, it might not exist. It might be a new technology or a new way of thinking.
What advice would you give to founders who want to embed a conscious, more conscious capitalist kind of approach into their business from day one?
I'd probably say 2 things. Like, one is just make it part of your business model. I think that's the easiest thing to do, is like for every sale we do X, or for every every month we do this. I think that that's a really great way to like motivate your team as well, because people, selling widgets on the internet can get exhausting, especially going through COVID, going through, the greatest supply chain crisis in 3 generations. It's really, really tiring to continually sell widgets on the internet. And so if you can give your team something to look forward to with every single sale, every big sales day, Black Friday goes into Giving Tuesday, and every Giving Tuesday, so we donate a percentage of orders Black Friday weekend as well. But on Giving Tuesday, we let people choose where 20% of their order goes to as a donation. And so that's really impactful, because it doesn't just concentrate where we donate the money, but then people get to choose the organization that we send their money to. That's really cool. It's through an app called Gives with a Z. If anybody's interested in that app, it's great.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Let's see. We've got an audience question. Let's go to that. Colin, how do you personally define success, and has that definition changed over time?
Oh, that's a great question. Success to me, so people get really confused with like goal task orientation. So I really stay on with my goals. So my 3 goals in life are to be financially independent, to make the world a better place, and to have fun. And, for those 3 things, like, to me are, if I can't achieve all 3 of them, I can at least achieve one of them. But ideally, I can achieve all 3 of them. And so Sheets and Giggles is actually not the goal, right? It's a task to achieve my three goals in life. And so when you look at things that way and you say, okay, my business is a vehicle, my business is a task, that really helps you stay true to your North Star of like what you're actually chasing. Because I think people get really caught up in the chase, and it's why entrepreneurs never smell the roses. Like they always they achieve one goal and they immediately go on to the next. Okay, I had $100,000 in monthly sales, $200,000 in monthly sales. Okay, I had $250,000 in monthly sales. Okay, $500,000. Like, and no one ever stops and says, "Holy shit!" If I caught it that time. If I told myself 5 years ago or 2 years ago or whatever that I would be doing this right now, would I take that? And the answer is almost always like, hell yeah, absolutely, I would take that. And so I think that just like reminding yourself of what your goals are and making sure that you're achieving them, and making sure that your business serves you, and making sure that what you're doing serves other people. That's the first thing I'd say. And then that it kind of coincides with the second thing, and a much shorter second thing, which is like, I see this all the time with entrepreneurs that like sell their company, is they're like, oh, now I'm listless, I'm rudderless, like I don't have a mission in life. Like, what am I to do? And I'm like, help people. I'm like, go like it's not hard. Like literally everyone from like Confucius to Jesus to you are your neighbor. Like everyone is each other. We are literally descended from the same organism. Like we are all part of one biosphere. And like, it drives me crazy when people, I feel for them, because I think it's an emotionally, mentally difficult place that they found themselves in. But they're like, I don't know what to do with all this money. And I'm like, go help people. Like there's a million things that you could go do to help people that you will feel so passionately fulfilled in if you go down that road. And I think that we really need to start living for each other a lot more.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's why we're always when we talk about build love into scalable systems, we always want you to ask that question: what can you do to build love into what you're doing? Because inevitably you're going to be getting to that place of, how am I in service to people in some way or another? And you might find your purpose along the way. I really love the concept though that you said of like the work being the task of the bigger goal, the bigger personal purpose goal, because it kind of flips things around that people aren't quite used to thinking that way.
People get really obsessed with tasks. They get super narrow-minded on tasks, because tasks are like their little box that they're playing in. And it's like, no one can touch this. This is mine. And I tell my team, this is what I hire for. Actually, when I hire people, I say, hey, by the way, there is probably my ADHD, which is the reason, but I just think about it as goal task. I'm like, there will be times when I ask you to do something, and then 2 days later, I call you and I say, hey, you know that thing you've been working on for 2 days? Stop doing that. I decided there's a better task to achieve the goal. And that's the way I want people to think about it. Not like, oh, damn, like we should have like, yeah, certainly if we had had that idea ahead of time, we would have chosen this other thing, but we didn't. And we're not going to let sunk costs get in the way of us choosing the better task to achieve the goal. And I think about that with my life as well, is like, am I going to let my tasks in life confused with the goal? And no, not at all. Like, what's important to me, like, other people, my family, making the world a better place than I found it, and feeling proud of myself day to day and how I'm impacting the world. So
yeah, this is where you kind of describe that purpose being the boss, which we say a lot on here sometimes. So when you have that higher purpose, sometimes you're not going to know exactly how to get there, but how you get there is really the open for debate.
I think
like you said,
people,
you can switch
I think
gears.
people get hung up about purpose. I think it's the way they teach it to us when we're kids, is like, everybody has a purpose. Like everyone has a purpose. And it's like, then I remember this when I was a kid. Like, I used to journal about it. I used to pray about it. Like, what is my purpose? Like, when will my purpose reveal itself to me? And I think that people can look their whole lives for that purpose and never find it. You have to give it to yourself. You can't wait for it to just like fall into your lap. You have to do things, take action, have an action bias. And then eventually I think your purpose reveals itself. And you don't just have one purpose. You can have 5 purposes, 10 purposes, 100 purposes. Like, I think that the core one, though, is in service of others and being your brother's keeper.
Yeah, that's a big one. Well, Colin, one thing I'm sure that founders and leaders of businesses don't hear is the word thank you. So I just want to take a minute to say thank you to you. Thank you for being conscious of the plastic around those mattresses, and all the things that you're thinking about. But maybe keeping the conversation going, forward a little bit with purpose. When it comes to a company, for our listeners again, and maybe for those that will consume this a little bit later, would you say the importance is, or what is the impact of having a well-defined purpose at the company level?
I think there's multiple reasons for having a well-defined purpose at the company level. Like, and that's what Sheets and Giggles, like, we are put here to make others' lives better, right? Like, that's what I say is like, we're a bed sheet company, so we're not trying to get too grandiose with our mission statement. But we are here to help people sleep better, and we're here to help them have better days by making them laugh with our brand. And we're here to make the world a better place with eco-friendly and sustainable practices. And so I think that clear mission statement, that clear purpose statement is really, really helpful for like value and goal alignment within an organization. Companies hire on 3 things: values, abilities, and skills. I tell all my candidates this is like every interview, they looked at your resume and they said, okay, they have the skills. Maybe we're going to go double check, but also in the interview, we're going to check their abilities. How smart are they? Are they quick? Are they clever? Are they creative? And their values. Are they going to fit in with our culture and our organization? That's what the interview is all about. And so, I think a mission statement like that, a purpose statement, and aligning a whole company around one purpose, is really awesome for people who are like applying for jobs at your company to opt into that purpose as they join, and for your interviewers to have really good clarity on what they're looking for in new people, because your organization is just people. And so I think that's the core benefit of it. And then, of course, is to keep people motivated, marching in the same direction, to resolve disagreements and disputes. If people are arguing in the office, you have to always align on the goal. Hey, are we arguing about the goal, or are we arguing about the task? And if we're arguing about the task, okay, but as long as we're all aligned on the goal, because if we're misaligned on the goal, that's a big problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I'd say too, like at certain cases, is it a moral issue, or are we going to, break some sort of principle that we're about? Then that's, a bad thing. But if it's how we sort of get there, right? If we can argue about how we get there, like you're saying, let's agree on, where we're going.
Agree on the goals. That's how I wish politics was too. Agree on the goals and then disagree on the tasks.
Yeah, let's get there. Yeah, exactly. I don't even want to go down that route because I'm
gonna go. Let's full pillow guy and run for office one day.
let's do it this way. So many businesses they talk about purpose, but few kind of live it. What would you say to leaders who see purpose as just maybe the marketing tactic and rather than a business strategy to live by?
Oh man, it'll bite you in the ass super bad if you make it a marketing tactic and not actually part of your company, because it's a very thin veneer that you and your people are going to drop at the first sign of struggle. And so and then that will torch your whole brand. I saw a company do this. I won't say the name of who it was, but they were huge on like, our entire thing is like worker owned co-op, like with unionized workforce, and like we, like our people are everything, and like we and then COVID came around and they straight up had to lessen the payroll because otherwise the business wouldn't have survived. And it was like, 10% workforce reduction, and because their revenues dropped by like half, right? And like, these are incredibly impossible situations to find yourself in. These are brutal situations. Now, could they have figured out a way to get around it without letting people go? Maybe. I'm sure they looked at ways to do that. But push came to shove and they let people go. And then that like undermined their entire brand value for the rest of time. Yeah. And they got torched online because of it. And so I think that's the thing, is like, whatever you lean into, just make sure that it's actually really central to like what you're not willing to compromise, because when the business world, man, especially for small business startups, like push comes to shove all the time. And it's really hard. And I don't think it's ever been harder. It's never been easier, and it's never been harder in both directions. I think that people need to really make sure that they're, do or die on this mission before they set out on it.
What's interesting on that example that you gave is like, if you're about the group and you're facing, this tough time with your group, obviously during COVID, why not have the group try and come to a decision together on what they could do to cut costs? Because it may just be like, hey, we'd all be willing to take 10% cost, decrease in our salary, if that would save our coworkers. There might be a way to come at it with a whole,
There are creative ways to do different things. I'm sure they looked at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm sure they knew it was a huge risk, but that's what I'm saying, is just like, if you're going to lean into something, just make sure that it's something that you're going to stand by at all costs. So, yeah.
So Colin, maybe to benefit as well, for the listeners, a learning lesson that maybe you've had, was there a time that there was a difficult decision that you had to kind of make that was, maybe testing your values a little bit, that you were committed to? Kind of what happened maybe in that instance, and what was sort of the outcome?
I mean, I think there's a pretty obvious one I think about most days with the resume builder, is the energy consumption with the AI usage. Mm-hmm. And so, I've had to make this decision. Like my free resume template helped millions of people. And that was amazing. I got tens of thousands of success stories, people emailing me, thank you so much, we changed my life, $50,000 pay raises. And, I can't tell you how meaningful it was to me over the years to interact with these people in this really one-to-one way. And I thought but people kept begging me for more personal resume reviews, and I kept turning people down because I just didn't have time to do it. And people would still go get resume reviews, but they'd go hire some shark, and they'd come back to me and they'd say, hey, I just spent $1,000 and my resume still sucks. And now I'm at $1,000 and I can barely put food on the table. And it just broke my heart to get those messages. And so, I debated, like, do I scale myself with AI? Am I taking opportunity away from others? Like all these different moral dilemmas and philosophical dilemmas with AI usage right now, energy usage and stuff. And at the end of the day, what I decided was, I can scale the people I'm helping dramatically in a one-to-one way. I can do it at an incredibly affordable cost versus the $400 that I had to charge for my time for a resume review. That was cheap, really, when you look at the time intensity of doing that with someone. I can do this for $9, $29. Like, that's amazing. I can scale that up tremendously. I give away the cover letter writer for free, which saves people literally hundreds of hours during a job search, because they write so many cover letters for people from scratch. Yeah. And And people who can't afford it, I just give it to them for free, the resume builder. And that is like a really awesome way to amplify. And it has been life-changing for people. Like I get emails every day. I just got one yesterday. This guy hasn't had to do a job search in 10 years, just lost his job suddenly after 10 years of loyalty, had no idea where to start doing a resume review, found my post, found my website, asked for it for free, gave it to him. Dude ends up getting a job 2 weeks later at a higher salary with benefits. He didn't have benefits at his last job. Like, and that doesn't just impact him. It impacts his dependents, his kids. And so that was kind of the moral dilemma that I faced. And also to offset the energy costs, we do donate half of, this is the maximum we're allowed to donate with Stripe. I might increase it, but we donate half of 1% with every order to, climate projects, so solar energy installation and that sort of thing. And so I just try to offset the bad as much as I can, and I really try to make sure the good is like a huge net positive whenever my morals are tested.
Well, you're asking kind of the right questions. At least you're going through that process, which is, what we kind of want entrepreneurs and people to do at that stage. If you could give one piece of advice to a new entrepreneur trying to build a purpose-driven brand, what would it be?
Well, I've got a lot of advice for new entrepreneurs. Don't do it. No, I'm just joking. I've got a lot of advice for new entrepreneurs. Do it. Actually, is my advice. There's very little to lose, and your life will be forever improved. But with mission-driven stuff specifically, I would just say that like I think that we all want to make our impact on the world. We all, I think, want to make the world a better place than we found it. And with a business, you have a really powerful tool to generate capital and distribute capital in a way that you see fit. And in the world that we've created for ourselves over the last 7,000 years of human civilization, the amount of capital you have is more impressive than the amount of hours you spend outside in the community. Now, I do go on, I'm looking at the Miami Edgewater Bay right now. I go clean up the park almost every weekend with my wife, right? And just bring a 5-gallon bucket and a grabber and pick up trash. And like, I volunteer my time at food banks and all that stuff. And the impact I've made with Sheets and Giggles and with sheetsresume.com so dramatically dwarfs what I can do as one man in my spare time out in the community. And I've hosted political fundraisers. I've sponsored public radio. I make our pillow in Denver with Mile High Workshop, which employs formerly incarcerated Denverites, pays them a living wage, reduces homelessness, reduces recidivism. These are things that like could not do if I was just, working a 9-to-5 and volunteering on the weekends. So I would say just some encouragement of like, you're on the right track. If you want to make your impact on the world, a business is an incredible vehicle to do that.
Yeah. One question we ask all of our guests is, what role does love play in business?
Oh, it's really, I've never ever gotten that question before. I think that you should do everything that you do really for love of your fellow man and love of yourself. Maybe as cliche as that is, but I think love has a lot to do with business because you're doing it hopefully in the service of others. Pope Francis had an incredible quote, which is, the sun does not shine upon itself. Rivers do not drink their own water. Living for others is a fact of nature. Life is good when you're happy. It is infinitely better when others are happy because of you. And I think that is such a beautiful thought and quote. And I think that has everything to do with love. And I think that a business really at its core, which what it should be, is making other people happy because of you. And there's quite a few businesses I could name that don't do that. Comcast. But I really think that.
Oh, we've gone through a few. We've gone through a few in some of our shows.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it has everything to do with business.
Yeah,
should.
I agree.
Yeah, well, Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we agree with you wholeheartedly, right? I mean, I think this is at the core of our show, Colin. Well, Colin, thank you so much for your time today. You know, sharing your journey and the insights that you bring. They are definitely very valuable, and we appreciate it. And so, for those that are tuning in now or will tune in later, they want to learn a little bit more about Sheets and Giggles and also sheetsresume.com. And even maybe learn a little bit more about you. Where should they go? Where do you want them to?
I'm not a heavy online person. I definitely don't want to spend my one time in this combination of atoms staring at a screen too much. So you won't catch me too much on LinkedIn or Twitter. But I'm pretty easy to find. Colin McIntosh, Sheets and Giggles. And for Sheets and Giggles, sheetsgiggles.com. For Sheets Resume, sheetsresume.com. If you need a new resume, please do contact me. I adore helping people with this. And if you can't afford the builder, just reach out and happy to give it to you for free.
Wow.
Thank you, Colin. Appreciate your time today. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. If today's episode inspired you to think differently about business and purpose, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And we'll see you next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.